On my birthday, my family never showed up. Confused and feeling the sting of 1,000 needles in my chest, I stared at the empty backyard where balloons swayed gently in the wind. Untouched cake sat on the table, and chairs stood in neat little rows, waiting. Waiting for people who never came. I checked my phone again. No texts. No calls. Just silence. It was my 21st birthday. A big one. My mom had promised they'd all be there, Dad, my 2 sisters, even Grandma, who hardly ever left her recliner. They said they'd bring food, drinks, and games. I'd spent the whole morning setting up in the backyard, hanging lights, and even renting a karaoke machine, hoping we'd laugh and sing into the night. I didn't even invite any friends, just wanted it to be family. I finally gave in and texted my mom. Hey, where's everybody? Is everything okay? Her reply came back fast. You really don't know, do you? That was it. That one sentence. It flipped my whole world upside down. I stared at the screen. My fingers were cold. My heart started pounding in my ears. What did she mean? What was I supposed to know? I called her. No answer. I texted again. No what, Mom? No reply. Just silence again. And that's when it started. The unraveling of everything I thought I knew about my family and myself. 3 months earlier, everything had been perfect. Or at least, I thought it was. I lived in a small town in Oregon, in a quiet neighborhood where people waved at each other and still borrowed cups of sugar. I'd just gotten my first real job at a local library downtown, which honestly was a dream. Surrounded by books, people who didn't talk too much, and the comforting hum of old air conditioners, it was my kind of peace. I was working part-time while taking online classes at community college. Nothing fancy. Just trying to figure out life like everyone else my age. I was saving up for my own place, but for now, I rented the little house my uncle let me stay in cheap. He was traveling for work and didn't want it empty. My mom, Diana, would call every Sunday. My sisters, Hannah and Riley, would spam the family group chat with memes and dog photos. Dad was more of a one-word reply kind of guy, but he always remembered to say, "Love you" at the end. So yeah, life was good. The kind of good you don't question. One Sunday call, 3 months before my birthday, Mom said something that now hits differently. She said, "I'm proud of you, sweetie. You're becoming your own person. Not just who we raised, but someone even better." I remember laughing and brushing it off. That sounds like you're preparing to disown me or something. She laughed too. Said I watched too many dramas. But now I hear it differently. Back then, I didn't notice the weird silences after certain things I said. I didn't think it was odd when Riley stopped answering my calls as much. I figured she was busy with her nursing program. I didn't pay much attention when Hannah changed the subject anytime I mentioned birthdays. I thought they were just being their usual flaky selves. I didn't see the cracks. Until one afternoon, about a month before my birthday, something strange happened at work. It was a rainy Wednesday, and the library was nearly empty. Just an old man sleeping in a chair and a few kids doing homework. I was restocking the history section when I noticed a woman walk in. She looked like she didn't belong in a small-town library. Tall, sharp, in a long green coat, red lipstick like she was going to a party or a courtroom. She looked around like she was expecting someone. Then her eyes landed on me. She walked straight up. "You're Olivia Hart, right?" My whole body tensed. Yeah." She smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Good. You look just like her." "Like who?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just nodded to herself, almost like checking off a box. "Tell your mother I said hello." And with that, she turned and walked out. I stood there, heart thudding, unsure what just happened. I told Mom that night. Her voice got real quiet on the phone. "You must be mistaken," she said quickly. "I don't know anyone like that." "Mom, she knew my name." "There are lots of Olivias in the world, sweetheart. Just a coincidence. Don't worry about it." But her voice shook. Just a little. That's when I started noticing the little things even more. The way Dad looked uncomfortable when I asked about old family photos. How Grandma once called me Lena by accident, then quickly apologized. how Riley changed the subject when I brought up baby pictures. Something was wrong. So I started digging. One night, I waited until almost midnight and texted Hannah. Be honest with me. Is there something you're not telling me? About me? She read the message. Didn't reply. The next morning, she left the family group chat. I cried. Not like sobbing, but the kind of quiet cry where the tears fall and your brain is spinning so fast it hurts. That's when I knew for sure. My family was hiding something from me, and whatever it was, it had something to do with who I really was. But I wasn't ready for the truth. Not yet. I went through old drawers, looked for papers, photos, anything. But all I found were normal things. Nothing out of the ordinary. I called my uncle, the one whose house I stayed in, asked if there was something he ever heard, maybe a family joke or a rumor. He hesitated. You ever wonder why you don't look like any of them? He finally said. I froze. What do you mean? Nothing. Never mind. I don't want to be the one to open that box. That's your parents' place. He hung up. I couldn't breathe. I stopped sleeping. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what was real and what was just stories they told me growing up. Who was I really? But even with the weird tension and half-answers, I never imagined they'd do what they did on my birthday. I never thought they'd just not show up. They promised. They promised with emojis and can't wait, and it'll be your best birthday yet. And I believed them. Because why wouldn't I? So I baked my own cake. Vanilla with strawberries. I hung paper lanterns on the tree. I wore my favorite blue dress, the one Mom said made my eyes pop. I even printed old family photos and hung them on a board for laughs. And then I waited. 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. No one. No calls. No texts. Until I broke and messaged her. Hey, where's everybody? Is everything okay? And she said, You really don't know, do you? That sentence broke something inside me. That's when I knew the truth was bigger than I thought. And way darker. I was about to message her again, demand answers, but then I heard a knock at the door. Not from the front, from the back gate. Someone had entered the backyard. I looked out the window, and my heart dropped. It wasn't my mom. It wasn't Dad. It wasn't any of my family. It was the woman from the library, and this time she was holding a folder. And smiling. That's when everything changed. She didn't knock again. Just stood there in the backyard like she belonged, smiling like she knew something I didn't. The wind shifted, blowing her coat gently behind her. The sun was almost gone now, and the lanterns I'd hung were glowing softly. The strawberry cake sat untouched on the table, the frosting starting to melt slightly at the edges. The karaoke machine blinked like it was waiting for someone to sing. But all I could look at was her. That same green coat. That same red lipstick. The woman from the library. I stepped out slowly, heart pounding so hard I felt dizzy. She didn't move. Just watched me like she was waiting for my reaction. What are you doing here? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She smiled wider. You asked for the truth. I don't even know who you are. No, she said. But you will. And soon. She held up the folder and waved it a little. Everything's in here. My breath caught. What's in it? I asked, stepping forward. Proof. About who you really are. About what your family's been hiding from you. A strange buzzing filled my ears. I couldn't think straight. Why would they lie? I asked, even though I didn't want the answer. Why would they hide anything from me? She looked at me with something that almost resembled pity. Because they knew one day the past would catch up to them. And today, Olivia, it did. I reached out slowly, hesitantly, and she handed me the folder. It was thick, heavy. On the front was a name I'd never seen before, printed in bold black letters. Lena Marshall. I looked up. Who is that? She tilted her head. You are. My legs gave out before I could stop them, and I fell into one of the lawn chairs. I couldn't breathe. No, I said. I'm Olivia Hart. I always have been. She didn't argue. She just stood there, calm as ever, watching my face like it was a movie she'd already seen. You were Lena before they took you, she said. Before they made you Olivia. I stared at her. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. Before they took you.
Took? No. No, no, no.
I fumbled with the folder, fingers trembling, heart slamming against my ribs. Inside were papers. Newspaper clippings. Photos. A birth certificate, one I didn't recognize. One that didn't have my name on it. The baby in the photo had my eyes. Same dimple. Same hairline. But the name beneath it said, Lena Marie Marshall. Born March 12th, same birthdate. But the parents listed, they weren't Diana and Greg Hart. They were two people I'd never heard of before. I looked up, blinking back tears. Who are these people? Your real parents, she said softly. And they've been looking for you, for 20 years. The world tilted sideways. I dropped the folder. The woman knelt to pick it up, brushing it off gently like it was precious. 21 years ago, she said, your parents were told their baby had died during a hospital fire. But that wasn't true. I was shaking now. What do you mean? I mean someone took advantage of the chaos and stole a baby girl. She looked me dead in the eyes. You. Everything in me wanted to scream, to deny it, to run back inside and hide under blankets and pretend I never saw any of this, that I never threw that stupid party, that none of this was happening. But deep down I knew it explained too much. Why I never looked like anyone in the family. Why I always felt out of place. Why Grandma slipped and called me Lena. Why the baby photos always started a few months too late. And why my family ghosted me on my birthday. They knew. All of them. Why now? I whispered. The woman stood, brushing her hands together. Because someone finally talked. Someone close. Who? I asked. She smiled. Your uncle. My breath caught again. Uncle Ray. She nodded. He couldn't live with the guilt anymore. Said he didn't know the full truth until recently, but once he put the pieces together, he reached out. Reached out to who? I asked. Me, she said simply. I work for the National Child Recovery Unit. I blinked, not understanding. She pulled out a small black wallet and flipped it open. An ID. A badge. A seal that said Federal Bureau of Investigation. I staggered backward. Your FBI? She nodded. Special Agent Mallory Briggs. I've been working cold cases for 15 years. Lena's case came back up when your uncle filed a confidential tip. We had to verify everything quietly. DNA. Old hospital records. Adoption papers, some real, some fake. It all led to you. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. DNA? Fake papers? A stolen child? I wasn't Olivia Hart. I was Lena Marshall. I buried my face in my hands. The world was crashing down, and I had no idea how to hold it up. Agent Briggs was quiet for a long time. Then, gently, I know this is a lot, but your real parents, they never stopped hoping. Never stopped looking. They hired private investigators. They posted flyers every year. They held candlelight vigils on your birthday. Her voice caught. They never gave up. My chest caved in. All this time, I thought I was loved, safe, wanted. But now I had two sets of parents, one who may have stolen me, and another who never stopped grieving me. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even cry anymore. Finally, I asked the only thing I could. What happens now? She hesitated. That's up to you. But they want to meet you. If you're ready. I looked at the folder again. That name. Lena. My name? My head spun. Agent Briggs touched my shoulder lightly. You don't have to decide tonight. She gave me a card. Then she turned to go. But just as she reached the gate, she paused. One more thing, she said over her shoulder. Your mother, Diana, she didn't steal you. But she knows who did. And then she left. I stood there for what felt like hours. Lanterns glowing above me. Cake melting beside me. And a name on a folder that wasn't mine but somehow was. Lena. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my bed, the folder in my lap, reading every page over and over until the sun came up. I didn't text my mom again. I didn't call anyone. I was too scared of what I might say, or what they might admit. The next morning, I got a message from an unknown number. We need to talk. Meet me at the lake. 11 a.m. Come alone. It was signed, Dad. Only, I didn't know if that meant the man who raised me, or the one I never met. I didn't have time to wonder, because 20 minutes later, I saw flashing lights through the window. Red and blue. 3 police cars. Pulling into my driveway. The flashing lights painted my living room in streaks of red and blue, like a siren-colored kaleidoscope. I stood frozen, heart slamming in my chest, watching through the window as 3 officers stepped out of their cars, serious, focused, not the kind of presence you'd expect for a routine check. One of them knocked on the door.
Loud.
Firm. I didn't move at first. Then the knock came again, harder this time. Miss Hart? This is the police. We need to speak with you. I swallowed the lump in my throat. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. When I opened it, a tall officer with salt and pepper hair stepped forward and gave me a quick nod. Are you Olivia Hart? My voice came out smaller than I wanted. I think so. He blinked. You think so? I shook my head, already regretting it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm Olivia. He exchanged a look with one of the other officers, then turned back to me. May we come in? I stepped aside. As they entered, I noticed the neighbors across the street peeking through their curtains. I couldn't blame them. 3 cop cars in a quiet neighborhood didn't exactly go unnoticed. What's this about? I asked, trying to sound brave. Is something wrong? The tall officer, his name tag Red Miller, looked me straight in the eyes. We received an anonymous tip that you may be in possession of documents that were obtained illegally, potentially tied to a cold case involving child abduction. My blood ran cold. The folder, I whispered. Officer Miller nodded slowly. May we see it? I didn't have a choice. I led them to the table where the folder still sat, half open, pages slightly curled from being read and reread all night. Miller opened it gently, scanned the top few papers. He didn't react much, just that same firm, unreadable expression. But I noticed how the other 2 officers leaned in slightly, eyes widening as they recognized the name on the documents. Lena Marie Marshall. After a moment, he looked at me again. Where did you get this? I hesitated. Should I tell them about Agent Briggs? Would that get her in trouble? Or worse, me? She gave it to me. I finally said. Last night. A woman named Mallory Briggs. She said she's an FBI agent working on missing children cases. That made them freeze. You have her card? Officer Miller asked. I pulled it out of my pocket and handed it to him. He examined it, then handed it to another officer who stepped out of the house to make a call. While we waited, I sat on the edge of the couch, wringing my hands. I didn't do anything wrong, I said quietly. I didn't even know I was her. Lena. I just found out yesterday. Miller nodded, but didn't say anything for a while. The officer who left came back in a few minutes later and whispered something to him. Miller exhaled, then turned to me with a softer look in his eyes. Okay, he said. She's real. And everything checks out. We're not here to arrest you, Olivia, Lena. We just had to confirm the source. These cases are sensitive and dangerous if handled wrong. Dangerous how? I asked. There are people, he said slowly, who do anything to cover up their involvement in something like this. That includes people you think you know, people you trust. My stomach twisted. Was he talking about my mom? Can I ask? I said. What happens to the people who took me? He didn't answer right away. That depends on a lot of things. Who was involved, how much they knew, and whether they come forward willingly. I nodded, even though I was screaming inside. As they left, Officer Miller paused at the door. If you hear from anyone in your family, he said, don't meet them alone. Contact Agent Briggs. Or us. I nodded again. The second the door shut, I collapsed onto the floor, shaking so hard my teeth clattered. The weight of it all hit me like a tidal wave. I was a missing person. I'd been raised by people who weren't mine. And now the law was involved. Everything was unraveling faster than I could hold it together. I needed to talk to someone. Anyone. So I called Uncle Ray. He picked up on the second ring. "Liv," he said softly, like he'd been expecting me. "You told them," I whispered. A pause.
Yeah.
"I did." "Why now?" He sighed deeply. "Because I couldn't keep living with it. I didn't know the full truth until a few years ago. And I tried to convince myself it wasn't my place. But then I saw you last Thanksgiving, laughing with your sisters, being so kind, so good. I realized the truth was going to destroy you, no matter when it came out. But if I waited too long, it might destroy everyone else too." I wiped my eyes. "Was it Mom? Did she take me?" Another long pause. "She didn't steal you," he said slowly. "But she knew. She knew from the beginning that you weren't hers." "Why didn't she tell me?" "Because she loved you," he said. "And maybe because she was scared. Or selfish. Or both." "I don't know who I am anymore," I whispered. "You're still you," he said gently. "No name. No lie can take that from you. You're the girl who helps people find books. Who makes vanilla cake from scratch. Who stays kind, even when the world is cruel." I cried harder at that. Uncle Ray was quiet for a while, then said, "There's something you should know." "What?" "I wasn't the only one who knew. Your dad, the one who raised you, he found out too. A few months ago."
What?
I choked.
How?
"He found a letter, hidden in your mom's old stuff. A confession. She never meant for anyone to see it. But when he did, he left." My breath hitched. "Left. That's why he's not around lately. He didn't leave you, Olivia. He left her. He's been staying with me, trying to figure out what to do." 100 thoughts slammed into me at once. So Dad hadn't ghosted me. He was heartbroken, trying to cope. And the message I got that morning, "We need to talk. Meet me at the lake." It was him. Not a stranger. Not a trick. Just my dad. The only dad I'd ever known. I looked at the clock. 10:45 a.m. I still had time to meet him. I grabbed my keys and ran out the door. The lake wasn't far, about 15 minutes outside town. A quiet place where we used to go fishing when I was little. Where he once taught me how to skip rocks and told me the stars could hear our wishes. I parked under the trees and walked to the old dock. And there he was, sitting on the edge. Greg Hart. The man who raised me. The man who knew and stayed anyway. I called out, "Dad?"
He turned, stood.
And then he said something I never expected to hear. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. But I didn't leave because of the truth." He took a step closer. "I left because your mom was planning to disappear with you again." My stomach dropped. "What?" He looked at me, face pale. "She was going to run, Olivia. Change your name. Start over in another state. She knew the truth was coming. And she didn't want to lose you." He reached into his coat and pulled out a torn piece of paper. It was a bus ticket, dated for tonight. Destination, Nevada. She was planning to take me. Again. But before I could react, before I could speak, a shout came from the woods. 3 figures burst through the trees. One of them was my mom. And she was crying, screaming my name, holding something in her hand, a small black bottle. And in that instant, everything turned to chaos. The scream ripped through the stillness like a knife. "Olivia." I turned so fast I almost fell off the dock. My dad caught my arm, but his eyes were locked on her, on Mom. As she stumbled out of the woods, mascara streaked down her face, hair wild, holding something small and black in her shaking hand. Behind her were Hannah and Riley. Both looked terrified, but they didn't try to stop her. They just stood frozen at the edge of the trees. "Don't go with him," she cried, voice raw and hoarse. "He doesn't know what he's talking about." My body was frozen. My brain couldn't keep up. Greg, my dad, stepped in front of me protectively. "Diana, don't." She didn't even blink. She came closer, raising the bottle in the air like a threat. "I won't let you take her," she shouted. "You don't get to rewrite everything. She's mine. She's mine." The bottle in her hand, I realized now, was a prescription bottle. but I couldn't see what was inside.
My mouth was dry.
Mom, what are you doing? She dropped to her knees like something inside her snapped. She was mine, she sobbed. They said she died. They told me I couldn't have kids anymore. Then you showed up so small, so perfect. I didn't ask questions. I didn't want to. I stood there, paralyzed, trying to understand what I was hearing. You knew I wasn't yours? I whispered. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. I knew from the beginning. But I loved you. I loved you like you were mine. My knees buckled, but Dad steadied me again. Your love, he said coldly, doesn't make this right. You don't understand, she screamed, standing again, the bottle now clutched to her chest. You don't know what it's like to want something so badly and have it ripped from you.
I do, he said.
I lost my daughter the moment I found out what you did. The difference is I didn't steal her.
Her face twisted.
But you kept her. You raised her like she was yours. Because I believed you, he shouted back. I believed the adoption was real. You lied to me, Diana. For 20 years. Riley suddenly ran forward, grabbing her arm. Mom, stop.
Please.
This isn't the way. But Diana yanked her arm away, stumbling backward. I was going to fix it, she said, eyes darting. I was going to take her start over. Somewhere they couldn't find us. Just like before. We would have been happy again. The wind howled around us. I'm not a pet you can carry from place to place, I said softly, but my voice carried. I'm not yours to keep. She stared at me like she didn't understand the words. Don't say that, she whispered. Don't say that, baby. I'm not your baby, I said. And that broke her. She crumpled to the ground, sobbing into the dirt, the bottle falling from her hand and rolling to a stop at my feet. Dad slowly picked it up. His eyes went wide. Sleeping pills, he said, voice low. Almost full bottle. My breath caught. Was she planning to?
No. No, no, no.
I dropped beside her, grabbing her shoulders. Mom, were you going to hurt yourself? She didn't answer, just cried harder. Riley knelt beside us, too. We didn't know, she whispered to me. Hannah and I didn't know the full story. She just said people were trying to take you from us. We thought she was sick or paranoid. But she was desperate, Hannah said, joining us. I looked at them. My sisters. Or girls I thought were my sisters. And even though none of this made sense, even though my heart was broken into 1,000 pieces, I could see the pain in their eyes. This wasn't easy for them either. Dad was already calling for help, speaking quickly into his phone. I heard the words psych hold, possible overdose risk, and keep her calm. I didn't know what to feel. I just sat there, holding my mother, Diana, while she cried into my lap like a child. I should have hated her, but I didn't. I couldn't, because even if I wasn't her daughter, she had been my mother. And I'd loved her too. An ambulance came 20 minutes later. They took Diana away on a stretcher. She didn't fight.
She didn't even speak.
She just kept staring at me like she was trying to memorize my face. Hannah and Riley followed in their car. Neither of them spoke much, but before they left, Riley turned to me. You don't have to forgive her, she said. But please don't forget she loved you, even if it was all built on a lie. I nodded, not because I understood, but because I wanted to. Dad, Greg, stayed behind with me. We sat on the old dock, the sun high in the sky now, warming our backs. I should have told you, he said quietly, when I found the letter. Why didn't you? Because I was afraid, he admitted. Afraid I'd lose you.
You still might, I said.
You raised me, and I love you for that. But I have another family out there now. People who lost a child. I need to meet them. He nodded slowly. I know, he said. And I'll be here. However you need me. Even if that means stepping back. I looked at him, and for the first time in days, my heart didn't hurt quite as much. I want you to be part of my life, I said. No matter what name I go by. He smiled. Then I'm not going anywhere. We sat in silence for a while, just breathing. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Agent Briggs. They're ready to meet you. When you are. I stared at the screen. My real parents. The people who had mourned me for 21 years. Waiting.
Hoping.
I stood slowly. Dad looked at me. You sure? No, I said honestly. But I want to try. He nodded. I picked up the folder again. It didn't feel as heavy now. And as we walked back to the car, I saw something on the dock, something small and shiny. A single birthday candle. I bent down and picked it up. It must have fallen from the cake yesterday. The birthday no one came to. The one that was supposed to be a disaster. But maybe it was just the beginning. I pocketed the candle. Because I still had one more birthday to celebrate. The one I should have had 21 years ago. And I was going to meet the people who never stopped waiting for it. That evening, as the sun started to set, I stood outside a small house in Portland. Agent Briggs had arranged everything. They didn't know I was coming today. She said it might be easier to surprise them gently, without too much pressure. I stood at the edge of the front lawn, hands shaking, knees weak, heart pounding harder than ever before. The door opened. A man stepped out. Then a woman behind him. Both of them froze. Their eyes locked onto me. And even before I said a word, the woman whispered through trembling lips, "Lena?" And then the man gasped, dropped to his knees, and started to cry. I stepped forward, just as the porch light flicked on. And in the glow, I saw a photo in the window. A baby girl. With my eyes. With my smile. With a name written below in faded gold letters. Lena Marie Marshall. And just as I opened my mouth to speak, a car screeched into the driveway. Doors flew open. And out stepped a stranger. Holding a gun. Everything stopped. The porch light flickered. The air turned heavy. The world narrowed into a tunnel. The man had a gun.
And he was pointing it at me.
"Get away from them," he shouted. His voice was hoarse, wild, like someone pushed too far for too long. He looked to be in his early 40s, dressed in a cheap windbreaker and jeans, but it was his eyes that scared me the most. They weren't angry. They were desperate. Agent Briggs came sprinting from the side of the house, yelling, "Drop it. Drop the weapon now." But he didn't flinch. Instead, he looked straight at me with something between sorrow and fury. "You don't know what they did to you," he hissed. "You think they're your family? You think you're safe now?" My legs felt like jelly. My voice caught in my throat. "Who are you?" I managed. "They left me behind," he said. "They left all of us behind. And now they're trying to pretend like they're heroes." Agent Briggs stepped between us, hand out, calm but firm. "Sir, we can talk."
Just put the gun down.
"You don't want to do this." He laughed, short and sharp. "You don't get it. None of you do." Then he looked back at me. "Lena," he said, voice trembling. "You don't remember me, but I remember you. I was there the night you disappeared." I blinked, trying to place his face. "Who are you?" He hesitated. "I'm your brother." That single word sliced through everything. Brother. A memory I didn't know I had flashed through me, muddy, like watching TV through static.
A boy. Taller than me.
Laughing as he pushed me on a swing. A red plastic truck in the grass nearby. I gasped. "Caleb." His eyes widened. He choked back a sob. "You remember." I took a step forward. "How is this happening?" Agent Briggs quickly blocked me again. "Stay back, Olivia." "Her name's not Olivia," he shouted. "It never was." "Okay," she said gently. "Okay. We believe you. But please, we can talk without the gun." He lowered it just a little but didn't let go. "They said you died," he whispered to me. "They told me you were gone. And I believed them for years." "I didn't know," I said, tears now streaming down my face. I didn't remember anything. I didn't even know I had a brother. He shook his head, wiping his face with his sleeve. "When I heard your case got reopened, I thought, finally, maybe I'll get you back. But they locked me out, wouldn't return my calls. Said the family reunion had to be controlled." He spat the word like poison. "I wasn't going to hurt you," he said, softer now. I didn't want them to steal you again." Agent Briggs moved slightly, hand still outstretched. "Caleb, if you put the gun down right now, We can talk about everything. You can see her, but not like this." He stared at me for a long, long time. Then, slowly, like it weighed 1,000 pounds, he set the gun on the ground and backed away with his hands up. 2 agents emerged from behind the house, silent, fast, and tackled him to the ground. He didn't fight, just cried. I stood frozen on the lawn, unable to breathe.
The door opened again.
And this time they came out. My birth parents, Amy and Thomas Marshall, Mom and Dad. They didn't say anything. They just walked slowly toward me, and I let them wrap me in their arms. Their touch was unfamiliar, but their warmth wasn't. I broke down. All of it came pouring out. The lies, the confusion, the loss, the fear, the memories that weren't mine, but somehow were. They held me like they'd been waiting 21 years just to do that. Because they had. Behind me, Agent Briggs was talking quietly with the other officers. Caleb was being helped to his feet. She whispered something to him, and he nodded. "I'm sorry," he called out to me. "I just didn't know how else to get through." And even though I was shaking, I found my voice. "I forgive you." He closed his eyes like that meant the world. Later that night, I sat at the kitchen table inside my real home for the first time in my life. It smelled like cinnamon and cedar. My baby pictures were on the wall. A school photo of Caleb in the corner. There was an empty chair beside me. "Dad used to sit there," Amy said. "Every morning, just hoping you'd come walking back in." "I'm not the baby you lost," I said quietly.
"No," she said.
"But you're the woman we never gave up on." We lit a candle together. Not for a birthday. For a beginning. I stared into the tiny flame and remembered the candle I'd found on the dock. 2 candles. 2 lives. And somehow, they had finally met. In the weeks that followed, everything moved like a whirlwind. My case made national news. There were interviews, court hearings, and deep therapy sessions with all 4 of my parents, both real and found. Diana was placed under supervised psychiatric care and eventually charged with fraud, not kidnapping. Because technically she hadn't stolen me. But she had known I was stolen. Greg testified on my behalf. He was there for every session, every meeting, every step. I still called him Dad. Riley and Hannah wrote me long letters. We weren't sisters anymore, not by blood, but we were still something. I met my real grandparents. My cousins. Even the dog Caleb named after me when he was 6, Lenny. He was old and grumpy, but he licked my face when I cried. And me? I started to find myself again. Not Olivia. Not Lena. Just both. A girl who grew up in one world, but belonged to 2. A girl who found kindness even inside lies. A girl who learned that truth can shatter you, but it can also set you free. The birthday that no one came to? It turned out to be the birthday that changed everything. Because that was the day I stopped being who they told me I was, and started becoming who I was always meant to be.